Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of 3 o'clock with SOC, one day before the election tomorrow. Just give me 1 second as I welcome our Spanish-speaking neighbors. Buenas tardes, muchísimas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros en otro foro comunitario. Como siempre, ustedes pueden escuchar el programa en español a través de una llamada de conferencia. Y el número aparece aquí en la pantalla y es 646-749-3122 y el código para entrar 779-328-221. Also keep in mind that if you can't be with us live, whether in English or Spanish, we upload both versions of our live afterwards, so you can access them if you can't be with us live at 3. At any time after 3 p.m. and into future days, we have those videos available for you on our Facebook page and our YouTube page. So it's in a playlist or it's in our previous videos tab. So you can definitely get access to those at later times. My name is Gabe Charles. I'm the Civic Engagement Manager for the Southside Organizing Center. Happy to be here with all of you, especially for such an exciting week that's coming up. We want to let you know that we are here for you in all the ways that we can be. Unfortunately, we are still not doing any work in person as we have seen spikes in our neighborhoods, and we want to make sure everyone stays safe, including our staff. But you can always call us at 414-672-8090. You can email us at soc@socmilwaukee.org, or you can look at our website that has all sorts of information, www.socmilwaukee.org. And we have a whole page dedicated to coronavirus resources and information, as well as a civic engagement page with other information, especially regarding voting in the census. So you always have access to those things. I also want to encourage everyone to be filling out our survey that helps us make this forum even better every time. We always are looking for feedback to make this more meaningful and more useful for all of you. So please be filling out that SOC survey. It's always located in the comment section, so that is always available for you to give feedback. Also keep in mind that we are all working virtually here at the forum, so that is why you don't see us wearing a mask. If we were all in the office, we would definitely be wearing masks, but we're still working virtually, still staying safe, so that's why you don't see me with the mask on. But I always have it handy. Never fear. I got a cat one because my friends love me and they know I love my kitty. And then just let us know who's here. If you're watching, just let us know that you're here by saying hi, giving us a heart, a smiley face, any kind of comment so we can see who's watching, because we love to know who's viewing. If we have new viewers, we only see the number of people we have watching. We never see the names. So let us know that you're here by saying hi or giving us a little love. And then just before I introduce Tammy, I want to give a disclaimer that the views and opinions shared today don't necessarily reflect those of SOC, as we are a specific kind of organization, and we love to make sure that we are allowing people's voice and opinions to be spoken through us, right? So please keep that in mind as we have our guests today. We've got some great guests for you, Ron Kuramoto and Paul Vang, and Tammy will be introducing them and having a great discussion with them. So with that, I will ask Tammy to come on and then have our guests after her.
Thank you, Gabe. Gabe is our Civic Engagement Manager, and she's doing a great job. We really appreciate her. All right, folks, this week we're focusing on two things. One is get out the vote, because tomorrow's the fall primary. And we wanted to talk to some of the new generation of organizers to share their experiences and thoughts on organizing and the current issues and events that are taking place locally and across the nation. So we're going to kick off this week with two great guests. Both of them new here live on the program, although Paul has been with us when we've done live forums. As a matter of fact, I'm very grateful to him because he and Nelson Soler moderated our candidates forum before the spring primary. So let me introduce those folks in a second. I want to make sure you don't want to miss the rest of the week. So tomorrow we have Catherine Villanueva from the YES, Youth Empowered in the Struggle, the youth arm of Voces de la Frontera with us. On Wednesday, we're having Senator Tammy Baldwin with us. On Thursday, we're waiting on confirming that guest. But on Friday, we have Dakota Hall, the Executive Director of Leaders Igniting Transformation. So you don't want to miss this week. All right, with that being said, I'd like to welcome our guest on today. First, Ron Kuramoto, President of the Japanese American Citizen League, the Wisconsin chapter. And he's also a member of the Executive Committee of the Asian American Pacific Islander Coalition. So if we could bring on Ron, we'll say hello. Hola, Ron.
Hola.
I'm going to bring on Paul next. And then Paul Vang, he's the Director of Civic Education at the Hmong American Women's Association. So let's welcome Paul. Hola, Paul.
Hi, hola.
Gentlemen, thank you for being with us. We're so grateful for you making the time, especially because today's a critical get out the vote for tomorrow time.
Yes.
What I'd like to do is we have about 25 minutes in this segment. If we could start with you, Ron, if you could just share a little bit about each of the organizations that you're involved in and your role, and then I'll have Paul do the same, and then we'll dig into the topics of the day.
Well, thank you so much, Tammy, and it's good to see Paul. Paul knows more than I do, so I'll not talk too long about the things. But it's very important to get out to vote. The first election is tomorrow. In fact, I'm going to be working the polls tomorrow, so I just ran over before it started raining from the training for the polls. I'm the president of our local chapter of the Japanese American Citizens League. The JACL, as it's called, is actually in its 90th year. It's the oldest Asian Pacific American civil rights, social justice organization in the country, and we have chapters throughout the United States, mostly on the coasts, mostly on the West Coast and the East Coast. Those of us that are in the Midwest have usually come from somewhere else. We call it the JA diaspora because
Yeah.
many of us came after the internment camps.
Mhm.
And we were dispersed into various parts of the country with $5 a piece and told to not congregate with other Japanese, to try and blend into the rest of the population. I don't know how much we've followed those things, but that was quite a while ago. Also, I'm part of the executive committee of the AAPI Coalition of Wisconsin, which is the Asian American Coalition of Wisconsin. It's about 22 organizations that represent a spectrum of the Asian Americans, AAPI, things throughout the community, including HAWA, and everything from a variety of different ethnicities as well. Most of the work of the AAPI was born out of a lot of the incidents and hate crimes that came from COVID and the violence that then was brought forth onto a lot of Asian Americans and throughout the country as part of the hate thing. So that's part of it's a relatively new organization here in the Milwaukee area, and hopefully we'll go more statewide. We have members throughout things, mostly in the Hmong community, which is the best organized in my opinion. So with that, I'd really like Paul to talk about his organization, which I admire quite a bit. So.
Thanks, Ron, for that intro. Tammy, thank you for having me on the eve of the August election. So like you mentioned earlier, my name is Paul Vang. I'm the Civic Engagement Director at the Hmong American Women's Association, also known as HAWA. Our office is located on the south side, right on 37th and National. So us and SOC, we've been neighbors for a little while. A little bit of background on the Hmong community. The Hmong are an ethnic group hailing from the country of Laos. And a lot of our folks lived in the mountains. And part of the reason why the Hmong were immigrated to the United States was my father and my father's father and that generation had actually fought as secret soldiers on behalf of the United States in the Vietnam War. And so after the Vietnam War and the United States had left Laos and left Vietnam, my family, my fathers, my uncles, my grandpas, they became refugees. And they were also under danger of persecution by the communist forces that were in Laos and Vietnam. And so at that point in the late 1970s, early 1980s, the Hmong were designated as refugees, and the first wave was brought over to the United States to resettle. And so with that said, a lot of Hmong people resettled in Wisconsin here, particularly on the south side of Milwaukee. A lot of Hmong resettled in California, Minnesota, North Carolina. And so those states continue to be large hubs of the Hmong community to this day. And so HAWA came into the picture in 1994. It was an organization started by 13 Hmong women. None of the Hmong women had any experience running organizations. They were just moms. They were wives. They were women who were concerned with what they were seeing in the community. Issues with adjusting to life in the United States, issues to accessing resources, issues on transitioning to life and culture here in the United States. And so they really felt the need to create a space and to create a hub for our community to come and receive basic social services. So that's what HAWA started as. In 2004, we started branching out into domestic violence and sexual assault advocacy work. And from then, that becomes the main part of our work here at HAWA. We have over 8 advocates who are from 3 different communities, the Hmong, the Chin, and the Karen communities. And so we service 3 different Southeast Asian populations here on the south side in Milwaukee. And as for civic engagement, that was a little bit newer of an addition. So HAWA is part of a larger coalition of organizations called the Freedom Inc. Community Power Coalition. Freedom Inc. being a 501c3 organization out in Madison, led by Hmong and Black women. And so in 2018, Freedom Inc. became a convener of, or they became the organization that was responsible for distributing civic engagement funds among Asian American Pacific Islander organizations in Wisconsin. And so in 2018, HAWA had the chance with that funding to sort of get experience with civic engagement and hire on their first civic engagement coordinator, which was myself. So I started in June of 2018. And since then, we've hit the ground running, providing important political educations and voting information to our community in their specific languages. So we oftentimes provide digital media, written media, and in-person services in the 3 different languages that we service, so Hmong, Chin, and Karen. And we also partake in get out the vote activities, but of course, as you all know, we're living in very, very strange times. So we're doing the best we can to connect with our communities right now. It might be worth noting that we do a lot of mutual aid, particularly during the time of the pandemic. So our food pantry is still running till the end of August. So our next one will be August 18th. And also we're hoping to extend that out into the fall. But that's just a little bit about HAWA and what we've been doing at the moment here in the Southeast Asian community.
Tons of things happening, and been watching HAWA grow and expand over the years, and very impressed. Let's start, gentlemen, with a get out the vote discussion. And then, Paul, I want you to weigh in on the new generation of organizers. I got a couple questions. Us old folks want to know. Ron, what would you say is the key things folks need to think about if they're on the fence about voting tomorrow? What are the things we want to lift up today to help those folks complete the process they've begun, or if they're thinking they're not quite as motivated to do it? What are some things you would suggest to think about?
Well, Tammy, I'm much older than you, so I will start on that. But I think what's really important about tomorrow's election, even though it's by party in a lot of cases. Democrats vote for Democrats, Republicans vote for Republicans. There aren't significant third parties right now, but it's getting the culture of voting that's important. It's getting the habit, the muscle memory, so to speak, of voting. A lot of people, a lot of pain and suffering in order that all of us can have the privilege of voting now. And it may be in one case to say, well, this is not going to be the one that decides the presidential thing or the senatorial races or things like that, but those will come. And I think what's important, and this is where I think the Hmong population and a lot of the Southeast Asian groups have done quite well, is the importance is really at the local level. In a lot of cases, we tend to think of the White House, we tend to think of the Senate, the House, those are important, but it's the boards and the commissions, it's the city councils, it's the other state representatives, the state senators, and those are on the ballot tomorrow. And that provides the groundwork for the bigger offices that are coming. So I think any election is important. And I think to try and rank them just because certain people are on or not on the ballot, I think really misses the point of the habit of voting.
I agree. Paul, what are your messages to folks who either still have to complete the process or are not sure about tomorrow?
Yes. Well, I love what Ron said about this specific election being more local. In this specific election, the elected officials that we're going to be electing for this next race are going to have a direct impact on the living conditions of our communities, right? So when he mentioned state senators, state assemblymen, particularly in the Southeast Asian community, we're going to be the most impacted by the policies, by the budget, by things that are passed through the State House. So I want to emphasize from the viewpoint of our Southeast Asian community, we can't afford not to vote. We can't afford to not have our say in matters of policy and matters of budget, because it affects us, particularly when I'm thinking about these newer refugee groups that have just arrived in the last 10 years or so. Many of them still need access to these important resources like Medicaid, affordable housing, education. And so even if there are many in our community that aren't eligible to vote because they're not citizens, it makes it that much more important for us who are citizens, or those of us who are born in this country, to actually vote on behalf of those that can't vote at the moment. So I have many uncles, I have many aunts who came to this country and they had never gotten their citizenship. They never would have imagined a scenario where their status as a legal permanent resident might be in jeopardy, right? They never imagined that their citizenship would be as important as it was now. And so I think it's incumbent upon myself and people in my generation and those of us who are fortunate enough to be born here, or those of us who have gotten our citizenship, to vote on behalf of those who don't have a voice at the moment.
Those are great points, Ron. In particular, when you talk about developing that muscle memory, the habit of voting, it's in this primary also that people can fix any glitches, whether it's their address or they're not listed at their ward. Like, this is the time, folks, that if you went now, you could fix a problem that arose so that you don't have a problem for the November. Like, this is the good time to do that. And Paul, when I hear you, it strings, the harp of my soul of social justice when you say those who can vote are carrying the load for those who can't. Like, those are really key messages we're going to have to add to our repertoire of why people should vote. And then I just want to add another piece, which is, in order for your communities to be valued, the vote carries a lot of power with elected officials and other people in power. One of the reasons many of our communities of color have been ignored previously is because elected officials say, they don't vote. And so if we want to be heard, if you want your community to register with someone, they need to know that you have the power of vote. Even if you don't care about a certain election, even if you have challenges for your community to be taken seriously, it has to vote all the time. And so those are all great reasons. Let me do a round robin now of what assistance can folks get from your organizations. I know AAPI had a recent conference. I know HAWA's been doing a lot of things. If folks from the communities you have mentioned need help, language, location, where can they go for the help?
Well, a couple things that I think might put it in a little perspective from the Asian American Pacific Islander communities. In Wisconsin, we have about 92,000 eligible Asian Pacific American voters throughout the state, which is about 3.3% of the total electorate. That doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it depends on how it's distributed and dispersed, and especially in local elections, that can have a profound effect. The total size of the population in Wisconsin at the last count was 194,000. And there's an 82% growth rate increase since 2000 in the Asian Pacific Islander things. It's a rapidly growing population. And I think that really magnifies the need to take things like voting seriously. And I really liked what Paul said too about citizenship, because that's another interesting thing and from my background. Now, I was lucky enough to be born here, so I became a citizen by birth, and I'm proud to be an American citizen who can vote, things like that. But I can tell you that American citizenship did nothing for my parents, my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, who despite being US citizens were sent to internment camps in 1942, right after Pearl Harbor. And also, I'm from LA. Most Japanese Americans that are from LA come from the Hiroshima area. Well, 75 years ago to the day, there was one bomb and very little of Hiroshima left.
Yeah.
And I think that citizenship might not have prevented that, but I think citizenship could have had a profound effect in both cases. So I would take it seriously. It's no joke. It's no laughing matter.
Very, very sharp points you're making there, Ron. Now, from the video conference you all held about at the end or last week, are there any information pieces we should share with the public on where they can get support to vote in their language by people who understand their culture as a result of that video conference? Is there a Facebook page or a phone number that they can call?
I believe you're referring to a conference that was nationally sponsored by OCA, which is formerly the Organization of Chinese Americans that a lot of us were invited to participate in. And so I would refer them to the OCA website, which I believe is oca.org, for a lot of that. I believe the best information on voting and how to do it locally comes from HAWA. So I'll defer to Paul on some of the things that people can get locally to be effective in voting.
Absolutely.
Paul, share that information and we'll post it in the comments so folks will know. What we'll also do is we're going to make a commitment to get this segment translated in Hmong and make that available on our Facebook and YouTube as we do with our Spanish. Right now, the program is being broadcast live in English. People are calling into a teleconference line and getting it simultaneously in Spanish. And we weren't able quite to pull that off for today in Hmong, but we'll make this episode, we'll find in collaboration with HAWA, we'll find an interpreter, get it interpreted and get it posted as soon as possible. So Paul, go ahead and share where folks can contact to get support.
Yes. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, for Tammy. I think the main thing that we can offer when we're on the eve of this election is number one, the only way that folks are going to be able to vote between now and Tuesday is in person. So at HAWA, at our offices, we've committed to being a personal protective equipment hub. And so, thank you. There's the flyer. So on the voting day tomorrow, anybody's free to drop by and pick up a pair of masks, some gloves, and some black pens. And you can bring those to the polling site to actually, go vote in person. So that's one way to actually do this. If you haven't voted absentee, or if you haven't voted early, is just to make sure that you and those who are around you are safe. As for more local voting information, we put out a Facebook Live political education session this past Saturday on a HAWA Facebook page. So that's Hmong American Women's Association. They can search that on Facebook. And on that page, we go over what are all the elected offices that are up for election and how folks can find who those candidates are that are running for their office. So we go step by step through all of those things for our community. So all they have to do is check it out and go through those steps and find out who's on my ballot, where do they stand on these certain issues, so on and so forth. And then also on the day of the election, if folks have any questions about voting, or if they have questions about what their ballot is and they need language support, they can call our office number. That's 414, I'm going to put this in the chat, 414-930-9352. And they should, when they call that number, one of our staff who speaks Hmong will be able to answer and be able to service them. And if they have more specific election questions, she can direct that to myself or one of my other civic engagement staff, and we can assist that person directly on whether they need help with their polling location, whether they need help on what documents to bring because they're not sure if they're registered, so on and so forth. We can provide that direct service on the line at that time.
Paul, and we'll make a commitment to go pick up your link at your Facebook and share it. So if I can ask Gabe, our civic engagement manager, to go ahead and pick up that link and share it on our Facebook page, we'll do that as well, just to make sure that we get the word out. All right, let's shift gears in these last couple of minutes. Paul, I think that Ron and I have, aged ourselves. I'm representing, my generation, the 50-year-olds and up, but we really wanted to talk this week about what's going on with the new generation of organizers. As in every intergenerational, stage, we have our conflicts and we have our things that we admire about each other, but we're all in it together. Are there things that you've noticed that are different as you've entered the organizing arena than maybe my generation or earlier? Are there things that you notice we do differently that you all, or better that you do differently? Because you all are digital natives. If it wasn't for my firstborn son, I would not be here, because he happens to work in IT.
Yes. Well, I think you hit it right on the head, Tammy. Like when I think about this generation of organizers and this generation of civic engagement folks, I think we understand that this young generation, especially a lot of these young kids that are going to turn 18 in the next couple months that are going to be eligible to vote, this huge block of voters, something like 7 million across the country, I think we understand that most, if not all of them, live online. Like they get their news and their information online, they get it on social media. And so what organizers in the Milwaukee area, what organizers across the country understand is that their message can be much easily spread and much more easily absorbed through social media. So Twitter is a big social media tool. Facebook, as you all know, Instagram. I have to confess, I'm a bit of an old soul. So even though I'm young on the outside, I'm not quite as digital media savvy as some of my younger contemporaries. But I think that's one part. And I think another part is this young generation. I think the younger generation gets written off as maybe not necessarily understanding history sometimes, but I would argue that they understand how do I say? I think the passion of previous movements, right? So like the civil rights movements, the workers' rights movements, I think our generation understands it on an emotional level, and they have that same level of passion, and they have that same level of desire for justice and equality. But maybe their understanding of historical events maybe aren't like exactly like, oh, this happened and this happened and this happened. But they have more of an intuitive sense of what injustice is. They have more of an intuitive sense of what's wrong in this world and how can we make it better. And so I would say a lot of the younger organizers are intuitive driven, and they're more driven by the gut feeling. But that isn't to say that they aren't strategic. That isn't to say that they aren't learning from history. It's just that I think with the advent of social media, we're always feeling and taking in things so quickly that I think that's what organizers are responding to. They're responding to the emotions at the time. They're responding to the conversations that we're having as a country at the same time. And so social media is, I guess, the source of information for this generation, but it's also the outlet for this generation. And that's how they've learned to communicate and process these ideas.
One
Good
of the,
stuff.
I'm
Go ahead,
sorry.
Ron.
One of the examples I've seen, Paul is absolutely right with the technology. And Tammy, you mentioned about the 50s. I remember being 50 sometime, I think. But I can tell you that there is a movement in primarily the Japanese American community, but also in others, JCL is involved, called Suru for Solidarity. And basically, it's protesting the immigrant internment camps that are around, trying to apply the lessons that happened to Japanese Americans in the internment, that this should never happen. And the whole slogan is never again is now. But it's a whole new generation using the means that Paul had described on social media, a variety of different things, going to some of the ICE detention centers and protesting in Berks in Philadelphia to shut them down. It's been really wonderful for me to see the youth get involved, which is pretty much everybody younger than me, but get really involved in that. My daughter Mieko is the national youth coordinator and things like this for Tsuru for Solidarity, but they've done some pretty amazing things, and they've coordinated it all during the era of COVID, in which case you can't gather, you have to do it almost all virtually. And to me, it's just been a fascinating type of thing for those of us who are used to doing the marches and the organizing and going, in the different halls, to see how it's done when you can't do that, to see that social justice still happens, regardless that you just have to have the passion, and then you figure out how to do it.
Correct. Gentlemen, the time has gone so quickly. You've added so much value to our forum. We appreciate you. We look forward to having you back and collaborating as we move forward. Be safe, and thank you very much.
Thank you, too. And
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of Paul's, so,
Oh, Ron, I'm glad to have you in our corner.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Ron.
All right. Adios.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks, what a great segment. We have a lot of work to do with our Asian brothers and sisters, and as all in humanity. And so appreciate that segment. I'm going to turn the program back to Gabe.
Hey, yeah, I really, really appreciated that conversation as well, and really love to hear about how we can take things from all generations to really push forward what we need to push forward during this time. And so many lessons to be learned just from the pandemic. So really grateful for that conversation. And with that, I will pass it right over to Marlene, who will give us a coronavirus update.
Hello. So for our coronavirus update today, I'm going to kind of shed some positivity and light on our Mask Up Challenge and how good everybody has been in the Milwaukee community in contributing to the hashtag Mask Up Challenge that we've been promoting. And this has been a Milwaukee-wide challenge, and we've seen people from Tammy Baldwin to Jeanette Kowalik, the Commissioner of Public Health, to everyday citizens in Milwaukee wearing their mask and sharing a selfie. So we've created some collages for you to take a look at. So if you can see, a lot of leaders and a lot of community members have been wearing their masks. If you can see, like Alverno Strong, the mayor is wearing his mask, and a lot of, you know, like individuals from Milwaukee repping their masks and contributing to the Mask Up Challenge. Here you'll see more. We have individuals from UCC. We have the baseball contributors there, like the little hot dog wieners wearing masks even. And we have the ballet, the Milwaukee Ballet has contributed to this Mask Up Challenge. So please, you know, contribute and wear your mask, and take a picture of yourself wearing the mask, post it on your Instagram or Facebook, and tag 3 of your friends and family members so we can make this a thing. And, you know, you're not only protecting yourself, but you're protecting everyone around you. Thanks, Gabe. I'm going to pass it back to you.
Thank you. I love seeing those pictures. Something uplifting is always nice. And it's great to see so many people following the rules and keeping each other safe. So what I want to do for everybody is just give some more specific information about tomorrow. So tomorrow is the primary election, and there are a number of seats that are important for us to be considering. So if you haven't gotten your absentee ballot in, or if you weren't able to early vote, then it looks like what you'll have to do is go in person. And so we want to keep everyone as safe as possible. What I do want to share with you is that if you still have your absentee ballot, please don't mail it because it will not get there on time. If you still have an absentee ballot, there are 2 locations that you can now get it in or drop it off. Not the locations that we have previously shared, as those were only valid up until August 9th, which was yesterday. But for today and tomorrow, you can take it to the Election Commission warehouse, which is 1901 South Kinnickinnick Avenue. And that's on KK between Maple and Beecher. And they'll be open until 4:45 today and from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. tomorrow. So again, that's the Election Commission warehouse on 1901 South Kinnickinnick Avenue to drop off your absentee ballots. And then you can also take them to the City Hall, room 501. City Hall is 200 East Wells Street. And again, until 4:45 today, and then from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. tomorrow. And that's the City Hall, room 501. So those are the only 2 locations for today and tomorrow that you can drop off your absentee ballots. So if you still have them sitting in your house unfilled, please fill them out, get them in at one of those 2 locations. And then something else I want to say is that if you arrive at your voting place, or polling place is what they're commonly referred to, if you arrive to your voting place and, for example, you see someone promoting a specific candidate within 100 feet, or if you get inside and it's not accessible to you if you are a person with disabilities, or if you mess up on your ballot and someone doesn't want to give you a replacement ballot, those are all things that you are entitled to experience. So you're entitled to go and vote without someone promoting a person within 100 feet. You're entitled to having an accessible voting place. You're entitled to getting a replacement ballot if you fill it out wrong and you want to redo it. If those things aren't occurring, you can call the Election Protection Hotline, which is 866-687-8683 or 866-OUR-VOTE. And you can report those things happening and get some advice on how to address what's happening. So please keep that in mind. And also, just like Paul was sharing, there are many organizations that are making sure that PPE gets distributed, so masks and gloves and pens and things like that, so that we can vote as safely as possible. So he gave the plug for HAWA providing those materials, at their location. I think he said 37th and National, and we'll make sure to share that information. And then there also might be people going around giving out those materials as well. But if you're going to vote in person, please make sure you bring your mask, bring your own pen. That will be really helpful to help mitigate the spread of coronavirus. And then also maintain social distancing. Even if you see that people are, if there are so many more of the polling locations are open, right? Thankfully. So you will most likely be at your same normal polling location, not the one that you were sent to at the April 7th election. And in a second, I'm going to show you how you can confirm your polling location. But even if you see that people aren't maintaining social distancing, don't be afraid to be the person not following the norm. If you want to wait to move forward and people are behind you acting like, why isn't this person moving forward? Don't trip about it. Do what you need to do to maintain your social distancing. Keep your mask on, and bring your own pen. And other than that, I just want to take the opportunity to show you all how to look up where your polling location is. So we will share this in the comments. The link will be in the comments, and it's also in a post that we uploaded just a few hours ago, earlier today. But you go to that link and it takes you to this page. And I'll just put in the Southside Organizing Center's address. You enter the number, and then it's South, we're Layton Boulevard. Click that. We don't have a unit, so we can leave that blank and submit the address. So if you were in the same ward as where SOC is located, your polling place would be Dorfler School. You're in Ward 220. It gives the address. It gives information about the main entrance. So here it says voters should use the main building entrance on West Scott Street or the South 31st Street entrance. Talks about parking, talks about accessible entrances. So if you are a person with disabilities, what is the best entrance for you to take? And same thing with accessible parking. You can even click here for a sample ballot. And then something else that's really cool is if you continue scrolling down, it shows you all of your current elected officials and will give you information about, okay, what congressional district am I? What state Senate district national congressional district or statewide congressional district or aldermanic district? Who's your city treasurer? Who's your school board district person? Who are your municipal judges, county executive? All of these things appear up until as high as the president, right? And then you can see your state senator and your congressperson. So it's really cool, something that you all can look at and just confirm that your voting place is what it typically is, not including this last April 7th election. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them into the comment section. I'm getting a comment. I don't know if this was recent. Someone saying that they're just seeing a black screen. I'm sorry if you can't see my face or if you didn't see what I just shared, but hopefully it was just something with their connection. But if you have any questions about polling location or voting location or anything else, please, you can reach out to SOC or you can make the comment in the comment section and we will make sure to get you those answers. And I'll wait just a second to see if any questions come up. I'm getting other people telling me that it's just a black screen. So I'm sorry about that, everybody. But I guess you could go to the website that's in the comments and then listen back to the video for the instructions. But I'm sorry about that. I was able to see it, so I apologize for that. But that's all I have for you all, and I will pass it on now to our lovely Jurea, who is going to introduce our next guest.
Gotta take it off mute. Hi, Gabe. How are you?
Hey, it's so good to see you on here.
So good to see you too. I think we are going to pull Tammy in for a minute. We're going to bring Melinda Hughes to discuss the diversion program for the Benedict Center. But Tammy's going to give us a little background really quickly about what has happened with the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding with MPD, and then we'll catch up with Melinda.
Great.
Hey, Tammy.
Hi, Andrea. I'm so glad we're talking about this area of need in our community, and I'll try to put this in Puerto Rican speak and go fast and do a quick history. We have been in a strategic partnership with the Benedict Center since I came on board to SOC. I think we started the year after, which was 2016. The gist of it, folks, is that we need to work together as a community to address the issue of women involved in street prostitution, and not necessarily in a way that you're used to hearing about it, because past efforts have focused on penalizing the women, criminalizing it instead of looking at it as a social problem. And also, it's only been looked at as a problem with the women, not the solicitors or the law enforcement or our community problems. And they're much deeper than that. And so we endeavored to do a strategic partnership. And our role in it was to coordinate the steering committee citywide to look at this issue, and to support the launching of a Southside Center targeted at this population, which has been extremely successful. Melinda can tell you all about it. And then the other part that we had was to do community engagement, which we're doing again for phase 2. And so in the first phase was to really understand what residents were experiencing from their point of view, including the women involved in this issue, because they're members of our community. And so we went to all the resident associations, which we have partnerships with many. We went door to door in the biggest hotspot of the community. And we talked with all stakeholders involved. We did sessions with the women. We did session with community organizations, the police department, the district attorney, the city, many other partners, the medical college. Anyway, that first phase was extremely successful. One, we got a Southside outreach center implemented almost exclusively with private funds, almost $1 million, and especially thankful to a cohort of people of faith, several orders of sisters and the Lutheran community. And then the other thing that we were extremely successful is getting a historic memorandum of understanding signed between the police department, the district attorney, and the Benedict Center that offered a diversion program for women involved in street prostitution instead of just arresting them or giving them tickets, which all that does is take them into the system, give them records, and comes out. So you have heard, if you've been involved with us for the last several years, from the Benedict Center's point, from the DAs, and from ours, that we cannot arrest our way out of this problem. It's much deeper. And so that memorandum of understanding has allowed for a new way of addressing this issue and getting at the root causes of some of these issues. And so that was signed by previous Chief Flynn, and now it has expired. It was not signed by the former administration and renewed. And so we're hoping that the new chief will be on board with getting that signed. And so that's a little bit of history. Phase 1, phase 2, our second round of partnership with the Benedict Center is addressing the same issue, but then realizing that there's a whole segment of that population that's addicted to opiates, and we need to look at the problem from that point of view. And I just want to quote Pancho Mercado of Team Havoc. When we were discussing this one day, he captured it so profoundly, which he said, we don't have a spike in prostitution. We have a spike in addiction to opiates that causes people to prostitute for their addiction, not just for the act of that. So that's a key kind of difference maker. All right, with that, I just want to give you that little history and turn it right back to Andrea and Melinda.
Hi, thank you so much for that history. And right now we have Melinda Hughes joining us. She is a program director at the Benedict Center's Sister Diversion Program. We are going to be having Melinda come on every other week and having some more programming to share, to do some public education about sex trafficking on the South Side and all over Milwaukee, because it is a hub here and we really need to do a lot of work in order to solve this public health issue. Melinda, thanks for joining us. Do you want to just give us a little bit of background knowledge about the diversion program?
Sure. And thanks for having me. And that was such an important insight around, the levels of substance use that are out there with the opioid crisis. We know that 80% plus of the clients that we're seeing have pretty significant substance use issues. And that's certainly a contributor to the need for doing sex work as a way to survive. So I really appreciate that lens, that shift. Our diversion program is pretty straightforward in the sense that the police can refer, in lieu of ticketing or arresting women who are engaging in sex work for money or other supports. They can refer to us and our program. And the good news about our sisters program is that virtually 100% of the clients that we see, and we've worked with about 167 in the past year, both on the south and north side. But about 100% of them are self-referred or referred voluntarily. They're not court-ordered. They're not under a deferred prosecution agreement. So that to me says that women are really wanting help. They are wanting services. They are wanting to, get some assistance from our case managers and counselors. And they do show up. They show up, some every day even are showing up. So, I think that it's important that people understand that life circumstances have sometimes conspired against folks, and they are struggling with some serious issues in terms of violence against them. They're dealing with substance use issues and oftentimes prior trauma. So, we really look at it in a trauma-informed lens, like what has happened that maybe has got this person sort of down on their luck right now and has led to the idea that, this is what I've got to do to survive. And how do we make sure that there are resources in place, both support and counseling and case management, so that for when people are interested in making changes, the pathway for that is well lit. It's a well lit path, well illuminated, and all the resources in place. And I know we'll probably touch on that as well. So the diversion is anybody can be referred, and I want to offer that to our partners that are listening today, our community folks. We can actually make sure that if people are interested in getting some of our referral cards, they can get those and put those directly into the hands of women that they're encountering who might need that information on how to reach us and how to find us, including our outreach team. Oh, thanks. Yeah, there's our information. We've got 2 drop-in center locations, both on the south side there inside of Hope House, and a new site or a returning new site to the north side on Fond du Lac Avenue. So those are our 2 program sites, and they both operate basically sort of in the middle of the day, Monday through Thursday. And in addition, we have an outreach team that goes out Monday through Thursday as well and drives the main streets that are affected by street-based sex work. And that's on the south side and north side. So lots of supports happening out there. Our street outreach team, just to kind of put it in perspective, had over 1,200 contacts with women, providing food, water, hygiene supplies, basic resources, and encouraging them to come into the drop-in centers and get help with our case managers and counselors. Oh, there's a picture of our van that goes out to and meets women right where they are at, out on the streets. Sometimes the question comes up whether or not people can ask our outreach team to swing by or check out a certain area. And we certainly make every effort to accommodate those requests and can make sure that a certain stop or a certain apartment or a certain intersection is on our beat, so to speak. So you can certainly contact our program and make that kind of request as well. Are you still there, Dre? Your picture dropped off. Are you still there? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I heard a big thunder, and then all of a sudden everything started reloading. So
the age of technology and storms.
Exactly. Luckily, we have incredible producers, and they were able to get me back in. So
Okay.
I may have missed a tiny bit, but it's just to kind of further go on this. Now that we know that the memorandum of understanding has expired and Chief Morales has not signed it before, obviously he was demoted recently. We're hopeful that the new chief will take it on, and I'm not sure what that is going to really look like in that timeline, but I hope it's soon because it's needed. But give us some understanding of what needs to happen, what needs to be funded in this next phase in order to really make an impact on human trafficking.
Yeah, great. I would just say real quickly about the context. We are in great working relationship with sensitive crimes, as well as the captains of districts 2 and 3. That's our main area of focus. So we actually just hosted new Captain Salazar, or new to us, Captain Salazar, as well as the sensitive crimes folks just last week at the South Side. So we've met our new captain, and we're working with them. So even though the formal MOU is expired, we're still in great partnership and encouraging those referrals to be made. So what was your second question? I drifted on that.
As we're going into this next phase, there needs to be funded in order to really make an impact now that we've already gone down the journey of the first phase. What are some of the things that you would like the public to know that needs to be pushed forward for funding in order to really make an impact?
Thank you. What we've noticed is that when women are wanting to make changes and get out of the life or ultimately stop doing sex work, one of the things that is a big barrier is that there is not real treatment on demand in Milwaukee. So as Tammy mentioned earlier, the opioid crisis has really hit hard and increased the number of individuals that are finding themselves involved in sex work to survive. On the north side, opioids and crack cocaine have been hitting hard. So, we really need to have more treatment beds that are specific for women who have trauma and addictions issues. Because ideally, when somebody wants to make a change, that pathway should be well illuminated and very accessible. You can have detox, but there's not really treatment available after the detox ends. So that's an important one. And then the other aspect that we really are emphasizing is we need more housing resources. And I know that's true up and down our population. And so we're not the only entity that's talking about that, but almost 50% of our clients are either literally street homeless or very precariously housed, meaning that they're staying in drug houses or with, individuals who are being violent to them and using them in a coercive or exploitive way. So, when we talk about trafficking and sex trade as a public health issue, there's a lot of impacts going on to these women and into our community, because these are community members and they're interacting with other community members. So everything from behavioral health and emotional health, but basically mind, body, spirit, and emotions are all impacted by these issues. And we just really want our whole community to be moving towards greater and greater wellness and trauma recovery.
Absolutely, absolutely. One last thing before we wrap up, and I'm very thankful that we're going to have you coming on every other week, and we'll talk about various topics and doing some public education and making sure that we're doing a call to action to actually solve this issue soon, I hope. Any last words that you want to share with us on what residents can do right now in order to support your program?
Sure. Thank you. I want to thank you all for helping donate masks and hygiene supplies in the past. And we certainly could always use travel size hygiene shampoos and conditioners, but especially travel size deodorants. And right now, small adult women's underwear, but small sizes like 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. So if anybody has that extra in there and the capacity to do that, we would love those sorts of donations. And then, in terms of those other initiatives that we talked about, if you're talking to an elected community leader and they're asking, like, what are their priorities and this issue is important to you, please talk to them about the lack of treatment beds and the lack of real housing options for people who are currently homeless and are wanting to make some changes and in their lives and get off the streets and into a new chapter in their life.
I will make sure that today when we share our video, I'll add in those asks that you want about the underwear and the toiletries and what we could say to elected officials. I'll make sure I tag the Benedict Center in that today. I know we're going to get some of that info in the comments as well, but we want to make sure that we can do it help. And I have a big box of masks I'm getting to you hopefully tomorrow, if not, yeah. Wonderful. I think we said tomorrow, so yes, always.
We distribute those at the drop-in centers and on outreach, and we really appreciate it.
Excellent. And this will come from our connection with 16th Street Clinic and our Mask Up Challenge. So hopefully more will be coming. And whatever you all need for support, we are here for you. Very thankful for all of you.
Thanks, Drea.
See you soon. All right, I am going to transition the show. I think we're at our end, but I'm going to transition it back to I think Gabe is coming on now.
It is me. Hey.
Not too bad for timing, right?
No, not at all. Thank you for that conversation, Drea. And Melinda, of course. So we are really short on time. I do just want to invite the communication manager on real quick, Marisol, to let us know about SOC promos.
Has this live forum been informative and useful to you? What part of the forum could be improved or changed to make it better? Please take a quick survey that's located in the comments section so that we can keep 3 o'clock with SOC going for residents. Thank you for tuning in.
And then I also just want to let everyone know that we're going to be on a few times tomorrow, not just our normal 3 o'clock hour. So I will be with you bright and early at 8 a.m. to let you know how things are already starting out at the polls, because they open at 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So I'll be with you at 8 a.m., around noon, at 3, and then another time in the evening, likely around 6. So tune in, and those will be for just major updates that are happening to remind folks how they can confirm their polling place, let everyone know how it's going, maybe get some reports of how people are staying safe and distanced from each other. So definitely be watching out for those additional lives that we'll have tomorrow. And then keep in mind that tomorrow is our Spanish forum. So tomorrow, Tuesday, will be our Spanish forum, and we will be welcoming Catherine Villanueva from YES, Youth Empowered in the Struggle, and we're really excited to talk with her. And then we are also very excited to welcome Tammy Baldwin onto our show on Wednesday. We're really looking forward to an amazing conversation with her. And then we have Dakota Hall confirmed for Friday and some additional guests that we're waiting to confirm. So we are in for a great week. Tomorrow is election day. Gear up, get ready, go vote. And as always, we want to express our solidarity, ongoing solidarity with all the folks out there protesting. There's even a march going to DC. It's just incredible, the work that community members can do. And so much solidarity with them. And then thoughts and prayers to all of those who have been affected by COVID-19, and especially those who have experienced death from friends or family members due to coronavirus. So thank you so much, everyone. I will be with you tomorrow. And we look forward to a great week together. And I'll leave you with a video thanking the funders.
Thanks.
Thank you to our sponsors, Wisconsin Voices, Community Develop Block Grant, Neo-Philanthropy State Infrastructure Fund, Movement Voter Project, Catholic Campaign for Human Development, Zilber Foundation, City of Milwaukee Office of Violence Prevention, Tides Foundation, City of Milwaukee Promise Sons, and all the faithful individuals who support SOC through their personal donations. We thank you.